Okay, so now that we have Reason open, what we want to do is kind of set up our template real quick, and basically just so that every time we open this thing works. Okay, we don't want to have to do any guesswork. We don't have to reset settings each time. So the first thing we're going to do is just going to work from left to right down here. So once you open your open rack, your empty rack, basically MIDI and player already be selected. Now on yours, the click track might not be selected. What you want to do is make sure that's lit up. What that allows you to do is have a metronome in place. So let's listen to it. The metronome, for those of you that know, it basically helps you stay in time and you play along with the metronome. And it'll be that click click sound that you hear. Okay, and that's basically how you play your bars and beat. And you can turn it off midway and turn it back on. This is the level that control it. It controls the click track. So if you want to turn the click, if you want the click louder or lower, you can basically control it right here. We keep it about 98, 100. Doesn't really matter. Whichever's comfortable for you and your speakers. I can tell you 100 is actually pretty loud, and you can hear it over any instrument you play. So it's pretty much a good setting. Right here is your time signature. It depends on what you do your music in. For most of us, we're going to be doing music in 4/4, so there's no need to even ever change this. I've had to only change this probably once, and that's when I was using an old record, and it was actually in 3/4. But other than that, you really don't have to ever change this. Right here, the tempo, I feel that 98 is a pretty good tempo range. It's really up to you depending on the style of music you do. You might want it slower for R&B, faster for techno and house music. If it's for hip hop, 98, 96 and 98 is a really good range, and let it differ from there. Different types of hip hop that we're doing now, it's like you're using slower tempos and different measures. But the tempo 98 is a really good range, and that's where I would keep it. You have your stop, play, rewind, fast forward, record button. Right here you have the overdub or replace button. What that allows you to do is when you play something one time and say you kind of play it wrong and you want to go over it again, you're given two options. You can either overdub, which means you can just play a note on top of what you played already, or you can replace it, which means it'll delete whatever you did the first time and add the new notes on top. I leave mine on overdub because I rarely want to replace. You really don't have to worry about this because most of the time you just edit all this MIDI, so it's not really crucial. And you want to make sure that your loop is on. The reason why you want your loop to be on is because these right here are your loop. These are your markers. These are your indicators. As you can see, it starts at the 1 and moves all the way over to 17 the way I have it set here. And I use 17. Basically, it's actually 16. When you're working on a verse or whatever, your verse is usually going to be 16 beats, so you kind of want to you just want to set it at this just so you can work on the verse, and you can always build on the chorus after you get the verse down pat. Some of you are the opposite. Some of you just like to do just a full, just only work with 8 bars. You just take 8 bars and you make a full chorus, and then for the verse you just delete everything out. However you work, it's totally up to you. I personally use 16, just work on the verse, and then I actually like to add different elements to the chorus, and it helps me kind of sectionalize what I want to do. And over here, all this is pretty much automatic, so you don't have to worry about this. This just give you your position. And this right here is your pattern shuffle. Pattern shuffle, you'll see it's on the reed drum, and it also controls some of the features up here that we're going to get into in a minute. So the pattern shuffle you really don't have to worry about because unless you're going to use it, you won't know. And when you use it, you can play around with it. So now we're going to come up to the top. All these are deactivated. We'll get into these as we start working and producing songs. But you just want to make sure your cursor is selected. And right here you see this magnet. What this allows you to do is actually choose basically how much you want to edit at one time. So best way is just to give you an example. So right now I'm just going to open up something real quickly and use a harpsichord. Doesn't really matter the instrument. Okay, so basically right now what I'm doing, and the reason how I got my screen stretched out, I'm not sure if I showed you guys that, is using these arrows right here. This opens and closes everything, and this makes the actual module, if you look at it, you'll watch it get the width on it kind of get wider. And let me just play a note for you. So let me just Alright, so as you see, those bars are really large, and we can make them smaller. It's kind of what you can see. Most of us aren't that blind, but for some of us who can't see or who just like to work with a larger template, You can adjust that right here, and you can adjust the width of this. I kind of like to keep my 16 bars within reach. Actually, I want to zoom out just a little bit. So in the event that I want to work on a chorus, I can just move these the locator back here to 24, and I can still see everything. So you want to do that. So getting back to the bars. So say I just want to edit this, or I just want to kind of duplicate this. If I have this set to bar and I have my magnet locked or snap to grid, it'll basically select the full bar. So I can either select that half a bar, or I can select the full beat. If you go down and you check on half, basically what this does is allows you to get a little, get more accurate with it. And once you play around with it, you'll see I can start right here. It automatically jumps to the end, so I can select half of that bar. Let's move it back up to bar. Right now I'm going to try to select just half of that beat, and it won't allow me to. You see it moves out to the whole thing, so that's what that controls. And this turns it on and off, so once it's off I can select 3 notes, 2 notes, it doesn't really matter. Let's turn that back on. I keep mine on bar. Only time I change it is if I need it. Other than that, keep it on bar. It makes life a lot simpler. And right here you have your basically what you want to run is you want to what you want your notes quantized to. And quantization just basically means if you play off tempo, it'll basically correct it for you. It won't make it perfect, but it'll correct it, and it'll put it in time. So you have quarter notes, eighth notes, eighth triplets, 16 triplets, and so on. I keep mine at 1/16. I work in 16th note. That basically keeps everything the way I want to. And for hip hop, you'll notice that you will be using the 32. You'll be using 32s, but for the most part, you're gonna keep everything in 16ths. And this is how much do you want to quantize it by. So it actually works on a percentage basis. If you want 100% to everything to fall in the 16th, you can choose that. If you want to do songs with a little more swing to it, you can just use 75%, and it won't lock everything precisely to a 16th, and it'll give it it unlocks it 75% of the way. And to activate to make sure you activate this and keep it on, you just want to click on it and make sure it looks like it's pressed in. Okay. And let me give you an example kind of how this works. So we'll set this back at 100. I'm going to turn the quantize off, and I'm just going to play something random with this double NXT just to demonstrate how that works. So we have our metronome going. Okay. So I just played a bunch of random stuff, and when you play it, let's see how in time it is compared to the metronome. Okay. Well, let's say I played that off, and I want to quantize it basically to a 16. I turn the quantize on. I select the stuff that I want to play to the 16th, and I click this little button, and I want it at 100%. You see how the notes just automatically move? Now it's going to play things only in 1/16. So you only get the 16 notes. You only get the 16 notes, and you can play anything. You can play stuff at 16, try to truncate it down to a 32, and you'll get different feels. But basically, that's just what this down here does. And as we start to work on more things, you notice that things start to become more apparent. You can switch over to edit mode, which you don't really need right now, but this is basically your keyboard feature. So if you don't have a keyboard, you can actually write notes in. Select your pencil, and you could just basically write notes in here and there. And of course, you just get all these other different features. This is all the different notes and everything, but that's more advanced stuff. We'll get into that later. But yeah, this is your basically they call it a piano roll in most other programs. On here, it's just your arrange view. You can arrange the music. You can change notes. Say you played something out, you can say this is all wrong. You want to shift it down to a different key. You can just select it and move it down. And now you just changed the key, but you kept all the notes the same. Very simple, very quick. You definitely don't want to keep that as a template. You want to have it just like this, and you want to kind of actually keep this down a little bit so you have space to look at your rack. And once you get this pretty much full and you want to start editing, there's a unique button right here. You just click on that, and it makes it full screen again, and that closes it again. So that's pretty much all for the template. So this is just a basic setup of the template of getting your measures, getting your time, getting your metronome and everything all set up so that it can work right.